Hey, folks, good morning and welcome to another episode of Steelers Morning Rush. I'm Alan Saunders. It is Tuesday, February 4th. I'm in New Orleans. Had Super Bowl opening night last night. Got to go out onto the field at Caesars Superdome, talked to a bunch of players playing in this game that have ties to Pittsburgh. Caught up with Kenny Pickett. I caught up with Sky Moore and Juju and Justin Watson and Fred Johnson. Also talked to Andy Reid a little bit, Steve Stagnolo, about some big picture stuff I'm working on. So lots of good stuff from that. Of course, that access continuing through the week. Also going to be hopping over to Radio Row for a bit today and tomorrow. And tomorrow also, there's a press conference announcing some of the international games or some of the international things going on for the NFL this season. So I'll be involved in that as well. So stay tuned. Lots of coverage here from the Super Bowl. But right now I'm going to talk about the draft and a question we got from yesterday's afternoon rush. From Eric L. Eric L. said, I like your draft. Alan for GM. I'm not ready to take Omar's job yet, but I'm sure he needs like an assistant or something, right? I'm all in for that. I also like NFL mock draft database from mock drafts, especially early before the combine. Which sites do you think have the best scouting? I mostly pay attention to Draft Tech, NFL Draft Buzz, and Draft Network, but interested in others. This is a good question because as a journalist, I'm always looking for new and interesting and better sources of information. And I've certainly clicked on all of those places that you've listed. I'll throw out a few more. Walter Football, PFF. There's lots of places. Just the NFL's own draft scouting does a nice job as well. And there's also a website called, I think it's called NFLDraftScout.com. Yeah, it has a lot of, I think it has a lot of good information. You can find info anywhere, but when it comes to like scouting reports, I don't really put a lot of faith in any of them. And that's not to say that some of them aren't good and some of them aren't right. It's just that I don't think anybody out here in the media sphere is like nailing scouting reports at a level that like should give you any reason to believe their opinion more or less than anybody else's. Had a conversation with someone about PFF's big board the other day. Well, you got PFF's big board. You got Dane Brugler's big board. You got Daniel Jeremiah's big board. Which one's better? I don't know. I guess you could sit there and like score them, right, and find out who's better. But I think there's a better way. And one of the things I really, really like is NFL Mock Draft Database. I use it constantly because it is aggregating the results of all of those big boards and all of those mock drafts. So when Daniel Jeremiah says this guy's a second-round pick, and Dane Brugler says this guy's a fourth-round pick, and PFF says he's a seventh-round pick, and Chris Trapasso from CBS thinks he's number 2 overall, NFL Mock Draft Database is going to combine those and come up with a consensus. And I think that is, when you're looking for like where is a player going to be drafted at this time of year, that's actually the most valuable piece of information. It's not like how good he actually is. Like, I don't care how good he actually is. I want to know where he's likely to be taken, right? In what area should we be having a conversation about this player? Jack Bash from TCU is a really good example. Had an awesome Senior Bowl, right? So I put him in my mock draft. I said he was an option for the Steelers in the 4th round. That's where he was. That's where he was being talked about before we got to Senior Bowl. Now I'll be interested to see in a week or two after some big boards get updated, some new mock drafts come out, where he will be coming up. The other thing I love about Mock Draft Database is that it tracks their position over time. What are the inflection points that changed why this person's stock rose or fell? I think that's really important, really useful information. It's not trying to come up with its own opinion. It is just aggregating opinions from a lot of people, a lot of good people, not just random people, all these people that I'm talking about that are in the NFL sphere. It's taking the wisdom of the masses. And I think there's real value in that. So that's one site that I really love. You will find me reference it all the time, both here on the podcasts and on the YouTube channel and in my writing at SteelersNow.com. I think it's one of the best things going in terms of learning more about the draft. And I'm not just saying that because they scored my mock draft 2 years ago as like 6th best in the country or something like that, although it certainly didn't hurt. The other thing that I really, really like, and it's not going to come into being until we get to the combine, is RAS. RAS stands for Relative Athletic Score. You can find the RAS website at ras.football. It is written by written's probably the wrong word, run by a man named Ken Platt, and it is a tool that categorizes the athletic traits of a player and breaks it down on a 1 to 10 score compared to other players at that position. It also provides really good athletic comps for players. So when you see a guy and you're like, hey, he looks a lot like whoever, then you can go and see how they are physically similar or different from other players. I've actually been told that this is a tool that the Steelers themselves use internally a lot. I really like it. And of course, it doesn't have anything in there but the heights and weights right now. But when we get to the combine and they start to get the testing data from pro days and things like that, that is a super powerful draft tool to compare players to other players, not only in this class, but historically. And so I think those, or if you're talking about like things I'm clicking on every day as someone who's writing about the NFL draft, I would say Mock Draft Database and RAS are like the two things that are kind of musts for me in terms of like how you can know the most about what you're talking about in the NFL draft. Those are the tools that I use when I build my Steelers draft board, when I do my mock drafts. I'm using those more than anything. So I definitely recommend both of them. And like I said, I'm not saying that those guys like Draft Buzz and Draft Tech and the Draft Network and Brugler and Jeremiah and Trapasso, those guys do good work. I feel like there's folly in just following one voice. And I think the data is good. Any way you can collect and analyze data, and then any way you can aggregate a large number of opinions into something that represents something, I think that is really powerful. And so, yeah, that's what I think. And I'm sure, the other thing is I do try to look at these guys my own and for my own opinions. Like it's great to go by what other people think. But one of the reasons that I travel to the Senior Bowl, that I travel to the Combine, that I travel to pro days, that I try to cover college football games in person during the season is that I want to get my eyes on these guys. I think you learn a lot about the player that goes beyond just the numbers when you see them in person. That's why NFL teams spend a lot of money to send scouts all over the place. That's why I try to do it that way myself. So I think my last message will be form your own opinions. The tape is all out there for you to watch. You can check that out. If you guys don't have the access to see these guys in person like I do, I would recommend going and seeing what you think yourself. It doesn't take long to watch a condensed game or a collection of clips, and you really do get a better feel for a player seeing them on tape yourself. So that's what I would say. I would recommend no one do your own work. That's all I got for today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching me. More from the Super Bowl this week with Smitty. I believe I'll be on Radio Row for that interview, so it should be fun. Until next time, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and enjoy.